Hi friends, it's Emily, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I am super excited to be doing this because it's been a while since I've done this, and I love the mid-year book freakout tag. It's one of my favorite time of the year here on BookTube, and so I am so excited to just be discussing all of my favorite books with you guys. So without further ado, let's dive right in with the first question, which is best book you've read so far this year. I'm actually going to mention 4 because I just can't choose, okay? Bear with me. First on the list is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. Listen, you've probably heard me rave about this one earlier in the year, and it has not left my mind since. We're following 2 figure skaters as they grew up together, rise to fame, and then something happens and changes everything. And I loved the format of this. If you're a Taylor Jenkins Reid fan and you enjoy Daisy Jones and the Six and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I think you're going to love this. It has the same vibe like historical fiction. It takes place a few years back, but it's also set kind of in our time. It's the early 2000s, and I just loved this reading experience so much. It's such a chaotic, messy book, but it's such a good time at the same time. I just loved it with my whole heart. I think I was not expecting to love it nearly as much as I did, but if you're gonna read this, listen to the audiobook. I will say that really elevated the reading experience for me, and especially given that the format is kind of a documentary but also kind of not. I feel like the audiobook just made me more immersed into the story. I will be thinking about this book for such a long time, and I would be very surprised if it didn't make it to my list of favorite books of the year at the end of the year. Another book you've heard me yap about non-stop over the course of a 24-hour readathon is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Are we surprised that Emily Henry has made it to my list of favorites once again? No, not at all. And I don't know why I put this one off for so long, but I am obsessed with Funny Story, and I think it might be my favorite Emily Henry book. I will have to reread all of the other books that she's written to solidify that statement, but I feel very strongly about this one. Basically, we're following 2 main characters, Miles and Daphne. Both of them are in serious relationships, and the people who they are dating are best friends. But little do they know that eventually those 2 people decide to run off together and get married. And so Daphne and Miles are stranded, basically, and end up living together to kind of make do with their whole situation. And obviously, one thing leads to another, and they fall in love. I mean, it's Emily Henry. What else would you expect? But this one was such a special read for me. I think I read it at the perfect time. I connected to Daphne on such a level. I loved Miles. I think he might be one of my favorite Emily Henry hero, and I sobbed while reading this book, like so much. It was an immediate 5 stars. Like, I just want to reread it. To be honest, the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm like, oh my god, I need to reread this. I just absolutely devoured this book. It was so good, and I cannot wait to continue reading Emily Henry because she never disappoints. Obviously, Ali Hazelwood also made it to my list of best books of the year. I don't know what I was expecting, but I have 2 books that I read from Miss Ali that I have been completely obsessed with this year. First, I want to talk about Two Can Play. It's a short story that I read via audiobook, and I became obsessed with it. It follows 2 people working in the gaming industry. They're kind of rivals. They work for rival studios, but they've always had this rivalry, and then they have to team up somehow. They go on this work retreat, and one thing leads to another, and yada yada yada. You know the drill. I just loved this one. I felt like the format was perfect. The length was perfect for this. I just really got immersed in the story, and I didn't think I would become obsessed with a short story, but here I am. I absolutely loved this one. It was so good. The narration style was perfect, and I just really enjoyed the story. It was eventful while also managing to really dive deep into the characters, and I overall really enjoyed my reading experience, and Ali Hazelwood never misses. Which leads me to talk about Deep End, which is another one that I read this year that I'm absolutely obsessed with. This one follows 2 student athletes who are divers, and they end up having this friends to benefit situation because of this secret that emerges at the beginning of the story. I just loved this one. I know this one is divisive. A lot of people didn't like it because it's a little bit different from what Ali Hazelwood usually writes, but personally I loved it. As I said before, Ali Hazelwood can do no wrong in my eyes. I just love her, and this book was no different. I just ended up falling heads over heels in love for the main characters, and I just really liked how deep, no pun intended, but how deep you got with the characters. I feel like I really understood them as people, and I just fell in love with their love story. I rooted for them from the start, and overall I loved this one so freaking much, and would be very surprised if it didn't make it to my top books of the year. The second question is the best sequel that you've read so far this year. I have been on a mission this year to finish as many series as I possibly can because I am a chronic series starter, but I tend to forget about the series that I start and just buy the books maybe or acquire them in some capacity but never really read them. So this year I'm changing that, and so this sequel is by far the one that I was the most invested in this year, and it is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Listen, I loved this one. I had a really good experience with Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and so I was really excited to dive into this one, but also kind of scared because I know for a lot of people, their interest in the series has gone down as more books are being published. For some people, nothing lives up to Fourth Wing, but I cannot say that I'm one of those people. I really love the direction that this one went into. I feel like it was very different from the first two, and I like that about it. I was afraid that it would get repetitive, but it was the opposite. I love the fact that we went on this quest. Our main characters had to grow and evolve. I am very excited to see the direction that this series will go into, because after the cliffhanger that this ends on, I need to get my hands on a copy of the next book. Like, I cannot wait any longer. Question number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet, but you're really excited to. I have a whole list, so I'll share ones that I have purchased recently, but I haven't really gotten around to. I have so many. I'm so excited. First, I have Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I have loved a lot of the books that Ashley Poston has written, especially her adult work, so I cannot wait to dive into this one. I have Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. Another Ali Hazelwood. I mean, of course I'm gonna love it. I am super excited for this one. I think out of everything on this list, this is the one that I'm most eager to get my hands on. Then I have One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. I really enjoyed Every Summer After, and I've heard that this one is a lot of people's favorite, so I cannot wait, because if it's anything like Every Summer After, I'm sure I'm gonna love it. Then I have Winging It With You by Chip Pons. This one I haven't seen really anyone talk about, but I've seen someone mention it on Instagram, and the premise of it sounded really right up my alley. It's basically about these two guys who end up having to kind of do this reality TV thing, but it's a travel related reality TV show, so I don't know, it sounded fun. It reminds me a little bit of The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochran, and I loved that book, so I am curious to read this one. And finally, I have Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's not a release that I was initially super hyped about. I had seen it go around, but I wasn't necessarily eager to get my hands on it, but I've seen so many people being obsessed with this book and giving it 5 stars that I just knew I had to get my hands on a copy, so I am very excited now. Question number 4, your most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I have 2. The first one being Mate by Ali Hazelwood, which is set in the same world as Bride. I mean, we're getting 3 Ali Hazelwood novels in 1 year. Can you believe that? Like, does this woman ever sleep? I don't know, but I'm excited. I really enjoyed Bride, so I am curious to see what this one will be about. And then the second book that I'm really excited about is Brimstone by Callie Hart. I will talk about Quicksilver later, but I did really enjoy that one, and I'm really excited to dive into the sequel. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment that you've read this year. I have to talk about Worth Fighting For by Jessica Sutanto. So I read this one in my latest Disney reading vlog, and unfortunately it didn't live up to my expectations. It is a Mulan retelling, which is why I was super hyped for it. It basically follows Mulan, who is working at this acquisition company, and she is tasked with taking over this deal that her father had undertaken. Basically, they're trying to acquire this whiskey company, but the whiskey company doesn't want Mulan to take over because they want a man. Basically, they're very traditional and they don't think a woman is fit to run their company. Mulan is really set on proving them wrong, and so she pretends that she's the one who's been dealing with them from the beginning, because all of the exchanges thus far have been done over emails. She pretends that she had been the one that had been talking to them about this deal all along, and then to prove her worth, I guess, she goes off to this ranch where the whiskey company is running, and she will try to prove that she's man enough to take over the company. I think while I enjoyed the discussion, like the feminism and everything, what I found the most disappointing is that I didn't root for the romance. And because this is supposed to be this romance, I found myself to be so let down, because I love Shang and Mulan in the movie. They're one of my favorite Disney couples, and so I didn't really love this take on it. And I also felt like sometimes we were trying too hard to make this a feminist take. I mean, Mulan in itself, like the story is already a feminist take. So I don't know why the author was trying so hard to hit the nail on the head about the fact that Mulan, she's a woman that is trying to fight for her rights in this finance bro world, and I don't know, it just felt very repetitive and a little bit like, okay, we get it, like, can we move on and just focus on other things? So I don't know, I wasn't completely sold on it. I think I gave it, like, in the end, a 3 out of 5 stars, which is not a bad rating, but it unfortunately did not live up to my expectations. Question number 6 is biggest surprise. So a book that you weren't expecting to love. I have 3, and this year I think I've really entered my romantasy reading era. Not sure what happened there, but I feel like I've been reading so much this year and I've been enjoying it a lot. So I have three specifically that fit within this genre that I read finally and really enjoyed. First one being Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. So I read Phantasma last year, or whenever it came out, and enjoyed it, but it wasn't my favorite. Like, I liked the concept, I liked the world building. I read that like in 24 hours or something. I was really flying through it, but I ended up being let down by the romance part of things. And so I was a little bit hesitant diving into Enchantra because I liked the concept and I wanted to continue with the series because I liked the idea of the second book, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be something that I would end up liking or if I was going to continue with the series afterwards. But after that book, I can tell you I will continue. I really enjoyed Enchantra. I'm not sure what was different there. I think it was the romance that I really rooted for this time around. I liked the game aspect of it as well, the whole setting. I feel like I just read the book at the perfect time. It was spring. I don't know. It just felt perfect. Once again, very enticing. The writing is very readable. It's very compulsive. You cannot put it down. And I enjoyed in my time reading it immensely. So we'll be looking forward to the next book. Another one on my list is Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha J. Tooley. So I read this one because I saw Katherine Eigel on TikTok like rant about it and saying how much she loved this book. And so I immediately downloaded it on Kindle Unlimited and flew through the book. Honestly, I loved the concept. I know a lot of people say it's unoriginal, but because I haven't read a lot of romantasy, like yes, some aspects of it like reminded me of things that I've read in the past, but it didn't feel like it was that unoriginal. I really enjoyed my time reading it. It basically follows our main character who is in prison at the beginning of the book, and then she basically has this opportunity to run in this trial to become the next Sun Queen. And the trials were so original. I just really loved like the Hunger Games, Squid Games meets The Bachelor kind of aspect. I'm someone who loves a good fantasy with like trials. I think that's a trope that I really enjoy. And so this one did not disappoint. I thought it was super original. I loved the world building and I did continue reading the series, but I think the first one so far remains my favorite. Finally, we have Quicksilver, which I've quickly talked about earlier. This one is one that I was kind of afraid to dive into because of the hype. I know a lot of people love this book. And so I was afraid that it wouldn't live up to my expectations. And when I first started reading it, the first 30% of it, I was a little bit unsure because I felt like it was very dull. I felt like there was a lot of info dumping and I was just like, okay, it's too much for my little brain. Like, please make the plot move along. And eventually it did. And then I became like really obsessed with it. Like, I feel like I read that really quickly, but I really savored every single page and I loved the turn that it took. It took me the whole book to really root for the romance, but in the end, I really loved Kingfisher as a character. I feel like his story is so interesting and our main character as well, but I feel like I really like the hero because I don't know, there was this mystery around him, and then the more the book went on, the more we learned on his history and just what he went through, and I'm excited to continue reading the series. I feel like it's going to be so good. So definitely something that I wasn't expecting to love and I'm glad that I picked up. Question number 7 is a favorite new author or new to you author. So you may know that I have this rule where I have to read 3 books of one author and give them 5 stars in order for that author to become a new favorite of mine. I don't have any authors this year that have made it to my all-time favorite list. However, I do have some authors that I've read from that I know have the potential to become new all-time favorites. The first one is Cara Bastone. I read Promise Me Sunshine this year and absolutely loved it. So I have a feeling that if I continue reading her work, I might end up stumbling upon another 5 stars because I've given 2 books of hers 5 stars thus far. I have purchased Ready or Not and I have a feeling that this one could also make it to my list of favorites. So hopefully we have a new all-time favorite. And then another author that I really love is Rachel Lynn Solomon. I read Today, Tonight, Tomorrow and I really love that book. It's one of my all-time favorite YA contemporaries. This year I'm diving more into her adult backlist. I've read Business or Pleasure, absolutely loved it. It's one of my favorite romances. And this year I've read her new one, What Happens in Amsterdam, I think. Really enjoyed this one. I think I gave that one a 4 out of 5 stars. It's a marriage of convenience trope. It takes place in Amsterdam. It wasn't perfect though, like it didn't reach that 5-star feeling, but I have a feeling that if I continue diving into her adult backlist, I might find some new gems. So I'm very excited to continue discovering her work. Next question is a book that made you cry. Now, I feel like I have been reading more books that had me bawling this year. I feel like I have memories of at least a couple of times where I was reading and sobbing, or at least like crying or tearing up at the very least. And it's unusual for me because usually I'm kind of frigid, like I don't feel like I express my emotions very strongly when I'm reading. But for some reason, this year is different. Like I'm reading more things that have me in tears, and one of those books, like the one that I have the most vivid memories of, is Funny Story. As I said before, I bawled while reading this one. Like I don't remember a time where I bawled as much as I did when I read this. I had to put the book down to just cry and cry and cry because I related to what Daphne was going through so much. I had to just like step aside and be like, okay, I can't continue reading because I'm crying too much. So for me, that just is a way to show that I'm connecting with the characters. It goes to show that like I connect with Emily Henry and her writing and her characters, and this one was no different. Like I think it's the one that I cried the most to while reading. I always cry while reading Emily Henry, but I don't remember having this severe of a reaction while reading the rest of her books. Next up is a book that made you happy. Now, I have so many books that I will say I loved and they made me happy, but one that had me giggling and kicking my feet and just super excited to read is The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. I have decided to start rereading this series because I want to finally catch up to all of Rick Riordan's work, and now I'm at this series. I loved this one back in the day. Like I gave it like I think a 4 out of 5 stars, and I had forgotten how much I love these books. The Percy Jackson series is so good and like it's a 5 out of 5 stars for me. I absolutely love that series, but then this one just goes one step further. I feel like Rick Riordan improves with every book that he writes, and I just freaking love this one. I was laughing so much. I love Leo, especially. He's my favorite, and the reason why I was laughing so much is because he is so funny. He's a comic relief in this one, but I love his character. I just feel like being back in the Rick Riordan verse just made me happy, made me excited to read again. I feel like I remember what it felt like reading this back in the day, and I just feel like I'm right back there. I'm back in my fangirl era, back when I was a teenager, and I love it. I cannot wait to continue reading, and so this one is probably the one that made me the most happy and excited this year so far. Question number 10, the most beautiful book you've bought or received so far this year. For me, it has to be Silverborn by Jessica Townsend. First of all, look at this cover. It is stunning. I love the purple. I mean, such a great choice. But then it continues. Let me show you properly. I mean, I love this. I have not read this yet, if you can believe it, but I am so excited to be back into the Nevermore world. And the final question, books you need to read by the end of the year. Well, first of all, Silverborn, obviously. I mean, I need to pick up this book, especially as I've been waiting for it for so long. But then every book that I showed you earlier on when it comes to my new releases that I haven't picked up yet, like this, definitely this, like, I mean, all of my new anticipated releases I need to pick up. So that is it for my mid-year book freakout tag. Let me know your answers to the questions down below if you feel like doing that. And I guess that's it, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!